Now, second question is, the next question is when the polar bodies are formed. When the polar bodies are formed, कब बनती हैं? The first polar body is formed in each month during maturation of the Graafian follicle. Maturation of the follicle. Maturation of the follicle into Graafian follicle. And at this time, primary oocyte is being converted into secondary oocyte. First polar body अब इस समय बनी. Second polar body it is formed during syngamy fertilization or the entry of sperm into the ovum. Into the ovum. Right? Now, we were discussing female reproductive system. Right? And we have completed ovary and oogenesis. Ovary structure, various aspects of oogenesis done, completed. Right? Now, the female reproductive tract. The female reproductive tract. Now, this female reproductive tract, it would begin from the fallopian tubes. And let us draw a diagram. Now, let this be the ovary. Right? There is a tube which is expanded close to the ovary in the form of a funnel-like structure, like this. And this funnel-like structure converges into a tube. The tube opens into a highly muscular structure, wide area, which is the uterus. This is the uterus. The same thing would be repeated on the other side, right? This uterus has a thick band of circular muscles over here. And then ahead to this is a canal. But this canal is slightly folded over this part. This canal is the vagina, right? This is the ovary, the fallopian tube, the uterus. If I draw the internal linings, the wall of the fallopian tube, continuing with the wall of the uterus, the cavity of the uterus, then this part cervix, and then the vagina. The vagina is folded. The inner wall of the vagina is highly folded. It is highly folded, right? This is vagina. This is cervix. This is uterus. The fallopian tube. Fallopian tubes of both the sides. The funnel-like structure, the part. This is infundibulum. Infundibulum, the ovary. Right. Now this is infundibulum. Infundibulum is this funnel-like structure. Now from this funnel-like structure, the next part, which extends quite close to the uterus, yahan tak. This is known as ampulla. This is the ampulla. And the next part behind this region, this is known as isthmus. This region is known as isthmus. Isthmus. तो डिफरेंट स्ट्रक्चर्स को कनेक्ट करने वाले पार्ट को हम isthmus बोलते हैं. यहाँ से यूट्रस फेलोपियन ट्यूब के साथ कनेक्ट हो रही है. So hence this region is known as the uterus is being connected with the fallopian tube part. Hence this region is the isthmus, right? And between the infundibulum and isthmus, it is ampulla, right? So fallopian tube is AI. Infundibulum, ampulla, and isthmus. Ampulla is in between, right? At the junction of ampulla and isthmus, at the ampulla isthmus junction, fertilization occurs. This is the site where fertilization occurs. This is the site where fertilization occurs. Okay. अब यहाँ पे एक स्ट्रक्चर और पढ़ लेते हैं. From this region, the body of the uterus, from the body of the uterus, right? A fan-shaped structure arises. यहाँ से इस तरह से एक बड़ा सारा स्ट्रक्चर यहाँ तक, ये इस पूरे एरिया तक एक्सटेंड करता है. This is behind this complete thing. From the uterus, this structure is arising and is completely holding all of this together. Right? It is on both the sides. This side also. Now this structure, this yellow thing, is known as the broad ligament. This is named as the broad ligament of uterus. This is fan-shaped broad ligament. Broad ligament of uterus. Of the uterus. Right? Okay. And here only we are able to see a structure which is connecting the ovary to the uterus. Now this structure is ahead. This structure is ahead of the broad ligament. इसके आगे है ये. Right? This structure is the ovarian ligament. ये जो structure है, इसे हम नाम क्या देते हैं? This is ovarian ligament. This is the ovarian ligament. So ovarian ligament connects the ovary to the uterus. Right? This is between the ovary and uterus. And broad ligament, it creates a flap-like structure which holds the ovary, the oviduct, all of these reproductive parts together and close to the uterus. This is the broad ligament of uterus. Now, as it can be seen with the infundibular part, this infundibulum, this funnel-shaped structure, is having folds in it, inwardly directed folds. The folds are inwardly directed. These finger-like folds in the wall of the infundibulum are called fimbriae. Inwardly directed folds or fimbriae. Right. Now, this is the vaginal canal. This is the cervix, and this is the body of the uterus. Right. The cervix has two openings. The opening towards uterus or the body of uterus is called the internal os. Internal os. OS. Just OS. Internal os. Os means opening. This towards the vaginal canal is known as, this is the external os. This is the external os, right? And we just read that the vagina is highly folded. The internal wall of the vagina is highly folded. Now, before moving ahead, this region, this part, which overlaps, this part which overlaps the cervix, this region, this part, right? This region is known as fornix. इसे हम क्या बोलते हैं? This is fornix, right? Now, the vagina extends forward as a tube, right? And is covered by a fold of mucous membrane. There is a fold of mucous membrane. Right. And this fold of mucous membrane is finally connected. This fold is finally connected with a flap of skin. The flap of skin. This. Yes. Right. Now this flap of the skin, this flap of skin is known as the labia majora. This is the labia majora, the larger one, major. Then the second fold of the mucous membrane, this fold on both the sides, this fold on both sides, this is known as the labia minora. This small, this fold is known as the labia minora. Labia minora. Labia means lip, lips, right? So these are basically two lip-like structures which are covering this opening. Together, these labia majora and labia minora constitute the vulva. These constitute the vulva, which is the external genitalia of the females. External genitalia of the females. Right? Now, this space, yellow shade से mark कर रहे हैं, this space between this space beginning at the opening of the vagina, extending between the two labia till here, this space is known as the vestibule. This space is known as vestibule. Vestibule is a common space it is a common space where urethra and vagina opens and vagina opens. This space is known as the vestibule. So it's a common space for the reproductive tract as well as the urinary tract. This space between these folds, this is known as the vestibule. This is the vestibule, right? And these are the vaginal folds. The vaginal folds are known as the vaginal rugae. vaginal, vaginal rugae. rugae. इन्हें हम क्या बोलते हैं? vaginal rugae. Vaginal. Right? Right. Let this be the opening of the vagina. Above it, the opening of urethra. Right. Behind this, or behind this would be the anal opening. Anal opening. So this is from dorsal to ventral. This is the dorsal side. Sorry. This is from ventral to dorsal. This is the ventral side. The front side of the body. And this is the dorsal side. The back of the body. Vertebral column wala side. Okay, is तरह से. Now, there is an additional tissue. There is an additional tissue which surrounds these areas. This tissue lies on the margin of the vestibule. This tissue lies onto the margin of the vestibule. It would be present on both the sides. Either को भी. It is on both the sides. Now this tissue projects outwards. This tissue projects outwards as a hood or a knob-like structure above the opening of the urethra. This tissue projects like this. It projects forwards. Right? This complete tissue, this is the vestibular region. This region is the vestibule on both the sides. This is vestibule. Okay. Now this complete tissue is known as the clitoris. This complete tissue is the clitoris. A knob or a hood-like structure above the urethral opening towards the ventral side, and then this tissue extends on both the sides like this, right? This is the clitoris, and this region at the top is known as the glans. The swollen part is known as the glans clitoris. The glans clitoris is structurally similar to the tip of the penis. Right? In the case of males, this complete tissue gets transformed into the penis. This complete tissue, the clitoris, gets transformed into the clitoris. Right? This is the vestibular part. Converge, and then now the wall of the vestibule. Wall of the vestibule has small glands in it. The glands in the wall of vestibule are called vestibular gland, vestibular glands, और Bartholin's glands. Bartholin साइंटिस्ट का नाम, और the Bartholin's glands, or the Bartholin.